Hello guys, welcome back to another video. I'm here to tell you guys about globalization and its impact on the international community as a whole. Globalization is described as the international community becoming increasingly intertwined. Globalization has affected international communities positively as the advances in technology have helped us to communicate better to solve conflicts. However, it can also be negative as it changes cultures, leads to abuse of resources, and worsening living conditions for the people in developing countries. However, it is quite clear that the positives far outweigh the negatives. Modern globalization very much affects the international community in different ways, as due to things like modern technology and the benefits of globalization have increased, but the negatives have only gotten worse. Despite this, globalization is incredibly beneficial to our planet as a whole, and the positives of it just far outweigh the negatives, which is what I'm here to talk about and explain in this video, so stay tuned to the end to find out all about it. One of the biggest types of globalization is economic globalization. This globalization occurs when different countries around the world work together through economic relations in order to spread resources more efficiently. One of the biggest benefits of economic globalization is that it allows different countries around the world to share resources previously impossible to achieve, as it has made trade much easier than it was previously. This allows no country to be deprived of resources, which is good, as economic globalization allows for goods to be easily distributed between countries, which ends up leading to lower prices for both everyday and more expensive goods. An example of this is how the Middle East has an abundance of oil reservoirs. International trade allows them to efficiently export their precious oil to the rest of the world, boosting international commerce. Another benefit is the trade relations, as many countries gain rep and friends with one another, as most consumer products go through multiple countries before reaching the consumer. An example of this would be India buying rubber from Thailand, processing it, then sending it to Japan, where it is then given to consumers. They are also known as trade relations, as all these countries work together in order to create something which intertwines the world's countries with themselves. However, it is not all benefits, as there are also drawbacks, as many people in foreign and underdeveloped countries are being exploited for their work and being paid very little. However, the benefits for the whole world outweigh the work required. Overall, international trade has very much benefited the world's economies by increasing trade relations, lowering product costs, and distributing resources more efficiently between countries. Another large part of globalization is cultural globalization. This is described as when the world becomes more interconnected as there is an exchange of ideas and cultures over nations, and borders. This type of globalization has many benefits but also many drawbacks. One of the main benefits is that it brings the world's countries closer together through things like the Olympics. Every 4 years, the world comes together to compete against each other in sports. This action brings countries closer together as they work together to cheer on their country in these games. This is a big benefit as it is known as combined leisures. We can all just sit back and watch our teams. However, cultural globalization can also be negative, as the introduction of ideas through technology can be used to manipulate people and change cultures. However, like economic, the benefits of cultural globalization far outweigh the negatives, as bringing people closer together is always important. The last big part of globalization we are going to be covering is technological globalization. This is shown as the advancement of technology being used for many reasons. One of the most helpful advancements in technology has been translators. Translators allow us to communicate easier, as it is much simpler to understand what another person speaking a different language is saying. This technological advancement very much helps the international community, as it allows us to easily communicate with people from different countries to exchange information, work to advance the world, and stop all conflicts seamlessly. However, like the others, it is not all beneficial, as errors in translations can be very severe, affecting many people. However, these issues are very few and far between, and the benefits of translators very much so outweigh the downsides. In conclusion, globalization has affected the international community positively, as it helps us to advance technologies and communicate better to solve conflicts. However, it can also be negative, as it changes cultures, leads to abuse of resources, and worsening living for people in more developing countries. However, it is quite clear that the benefits of globalization far outweigh the negatives. Globalization has helped our world to advance into a new era where each country works together to solve greater issues. I also think globalization is only going to lead our country to becoming more technological and more advanced and more connected as we all work together. Modern technology is playing a very large role, as it is advancing and expanding globalization so it can help more and more people throughout the world in more and more countries. Overall, globalization, although negative at times, has a majority positive effect on the world and its status for many reasons. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.